In this episode of Find the Good News, I had the chance to catch up with Becky Girola, the director of ABC Crisis Pregnancy Center in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Becky has a positivity and energy that hits you right in the heart. She shares her inner spirit and faith without reserve. It's easy to see how her call to non-judgment and love have placed her in the right position to serve young girls and women that face the fear and uncertainty that an unplanned pregnancy can bring. Becky and ABC offer something that is just as valuable as their resources and services. They provide companionship, kindness, compassion, and hope. For a young woman in crisis, that can be the good news they need to hear.
Wake up, it's morning. You're dreaming up a story. I can hear the way it's going, 'cause you're laughing in your sleep. On the path to your deliverance, and a holy wall of light pouring through your window.
Old news, bad news, fake news. Sometimes you just want to shut it all down and get no news at all. With Find the Good News, I aim to change that by focusing on good people doing good work. I visit with artists, educators, civic and spiritual leaders, musicians, business owners, students, volunteers, and everyday citizens who are using their creativity, resources, and talents to bring hope and happiness to their corner of the world. In each episode, I dig into the hearts and minds of my extraordinary guests. We have street-level conversations about relatable things going on in their lives. Discover the critical life experiences that shape them, the perspectives that drive them, and the fundamental beliefs that are anchoring them to a path of goodness. There's a lot of news in the world. My name is Oran Parker, and I'm going to find the good.
And I love you just as well.
To do pregnancy tests when the toilets won't flush.
Oh my gosh, yeah, who thinks of that, right? I mean, that's
so
like...
I've got the restoration people and the plumber and everyone coming. I'm like, oh no.
How long have you been there?
About 5 years as a volunteer and only a year as the director. August was my first full year.
Oh, wow, man. So you started out volunteering and then moved into that position?
Yes. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it was just a really cool story, though. And
well, I want to hear about it.
I love it. I mean, like, the fact that I get to wake up and do it is just like, what? This is so cool.
Well, then that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. I know.
I'm so glad you agreed to do this.
I love that. I love that you're doing this, though, too, because people don't always know all the good stuff. You hear bad news all the time.
All the time.
This
I mean,
is great.
That's right. I kind of got fed up with it. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I just, the whole thing was I just started seeing a change in my mind. I was just like, man, I can't avoid this news.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be involved in these social networks and things like that, I mean, you have to be kind of plugged in, but you also get the negative with the positive.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, I meet so many people through our business, and I'm that type of person. I don't like that surface level, just sort of skim through. Yeah. I like to know people.
Yeah.
And I think that's something is challenging in business, to just
in life in general, just because we're all fast paced.
Yeah,
and
right
it's easy
on.
just to be, social media type people.
Yeah.
Not really have those real connections.
Well, and it's kind of retraining us, And I thought, well, if it trained me, I used to not be this way, and if it trained me to be this way, I can retrain myself. And so
I like that.
Just kind of putting something new out there.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, trying the new form of media. Awesome. I love podcasts. Do you listen to podcasts?
I do when I can. I have 3 kids and on the go all the time.
Me too.
So I do when I can, but it's whenever I can get earplugs in.
Yeah, I usually listen to them when I'm driving because I'm driving
I was going to say,
lot.
trips are good. If the kids have a movie on, then I can. But yeah, I do. Or if I'm ever by myself, I do. Yeah, I like that.
Well,
way
cool.
better than radio.
What do you listen to? Like what?
Phone off. It kind of depends on what season I'm in. Like my sister recently converted to Catholicism. Yeah. And we grew up like Baptist our whole life, and so it was like a kind of a interesting thing for our family, because her soon-to-be fiance, we love his family. His whole family is Catholic. Our whole family has been Baptist our whole life.
Gotcha.
So it was kind of like, that's a big deal,
Yeah, because you're talking about 2 different worlds. That's so interesting because the guy I had on last night, we talked about that.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
And so it was like, just when you grow up, you are a product of your environment. It's just what you've been taught and all that, And so there's a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of differences with our families.
Sure.
But we adore his family. Like, our families love each other. That was just like the one
and
thing.
that you find probably is
anyway. And so she, went on this journey, and it was a big deal for her. She was like, but I want us to be the same. And so she spent a whole year just like really praying and going to this course and seeing if this is something she wanted to do. And it was just a lot of questions that come up. So I listened to just a bunch of things just of history and people debating different things and their beliefs and all that.
I do the same thing.
I just like to listen to know what other people's perspectives are, just to have an open mind. And one time I had to drive to Baton Rouge. I just listened to that like the whole way. And then of course, I'm in the pro-life world. So I love to hear about like all the different stances on life and abortion and pro-life and just the different causes and how people just, tackle social issues with all that. So I love to listen to things like that.
Well, I think we should talk about all that today. I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah.
The whole thing I think is wherever it goes, it goes. I try to...
For sure. I'm always going to be positive too. I mean,
that's
me, like that's
me.
I'm going to be positive. I'm not political at all. Like, it is what it is. It's the world we live in. But like for me, I know my heart and where my role is in our community, and what I'm doing to make a difference. So, you just kind of have to go with it. There's always going to be differences with people.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we learn to just...
we have to embrace each other and learn from each other, you know?
Instead of just being they're over there, we're over here, and keeping it separate. It's interesting about your family having to face those religious differences because, those are two different worlds, but they're the same in a lot of ways too. I mean, I've experienced some of that same stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like, so at Easter, it was awesome. She got confirmed in the Catholic Church the night before Easter, and we just built a new house. And so, like, we always like want to have people over. So it's like, for Easter, like, his whole family can come to our house. Our whole family will be there. So it was like a ton of Catholics, a ton of Baptists, and we all circled up. And I was like, y'all, like, it doesn't matter. Like, we have different worship styles. Like, there's different things that we may not be, 100% on, but like, what unifies us is Jesus Christ. And like, that's the main thing. If we can find common ground, we're good, and we love each other, and like, we're here for fellowship. Like, we're all here for the same thing. And it was really cool. It was a really cool Easter. It was like our first Easter in our home, in our new house. And I don't know, we were just like, this is really cool.
Bringing good people together. And I think that, I'm in sort of a nebulous territory with all of that because I wasn't raised Catholic, but then I converted Catholic, and my wife wasn't Catholic, but then we kind of went back into the church, and then we kind of stepped out for some other reasons. And, as those people, we get it because we're like, look, we don't really have... We have, I guess, issue with some things and some things we don't. And so we just sort of we're open door to all people because we really go, look, I don't know where you've been. Yeah. So much of what we believe comes from nurture. Yeah. It's just how we're raised and what family are. And we were having that conversation today.
And that's the thing about religion. Like, it's more man focused. Like, it's man-made, like religion. But like, it's the spiritual part for me. Like, for me, it's like, okay, when I close my eyes, like, I know that I have a spirit there. I know that, like, conscious, whatever you want to call it. Like, I know that I'm there. And so for me, it's more about my relationship with God, and how...
And that's how he wants it. It's a relationship with you.
Yes. It's not about like, if you're Presbyterian or Baptist or Catholic or all that. Like, those are all things that man has formulated, so that you can worship God, which is good. You need some structure, but ultimately it's not about just going to church. It's about what's in your heart and what the realness of it is.
You got to go out there and apply it into the world.
Exactly. That's what I was telling my sister. I was like, our family's not going to disown you if you're Catholic. Like, it's more about your spiritual health. Like,
that's good that your family's like that. Not every family's like that.
They're not. Yeah, exactly.
So, it's been a long time since I saw you.
Yeah.
And me and my wife were talking about it. Where were you at when we first met?
When we first met, I had just moved here from New Orleans with my husband. We had no kids. And I was working for Northwestern Mutual as the director of development, helping them to grow that business there.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
What building were y'all in?
The Chase Bank building.
Chase Bank. Okay. That's what we were talking about. We were going, okay. I had like a memory of being in one of the downtown buildings. And that's what I told her. I said, I just have a memory of being in one of those buildings, but I couldn't remember which. Right. I mean, it's been a while.
We met through Fusion 5, I believe. And I remember I had no clue what Twitter was. I had just gotten an iPhone, and you had some kind of little get together at a coffee shop, and you were telling everybody about like, this is what Twitter is, and this is how it works.
About that.
Yeah.
God, that was back.
That's the first time I met you.
Man, I tell you, I've changed my tune. Yeah. I have, because I mean, man, that brings up a whole nother thing. I mean, I really forgot about that. I used to have, it was a tweet up.
Yeah, that's what it was called.
And I think we'd use hashtags and try to connect people because Twitter was kind of brand new at that time. It was brand new,
yes.
People in Lake Charles weren't using it. And honestly, they're kind of still not.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, we still use it. We post there, but we don't really get a lot of activity.
Right.
Facebook seems to be the big...
Right.
In Instagram in this market.
It is.
But yeah, I changed my tune. I mean, for years and years, I was pushing all that stuff as a marketing tool, which I still use it, but I've dialed back a lot.
Yeah?
Oh yeah. Back when I first started out, I was all about, every connection, seeking new followers and just connecting with just anybody and everybody. And it got so noisy so fast. And then it became overwhelming. There was just too much of that and not enough of the things that I really enjoyed about life. So you end up, for me anyway, you end up there more than you end up out in the world.
Right.
I never could figure out the right balance of that, especially with kids and clients. And as I found, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I just can't, I actually stepped away from it all.
Wow.
Like completely. I got off and then almost 2 years. And I had to keep my accounts because I had customers that I managed their stuff. But that was really it for me. It was, I still read articles and stuff online, but with customers, I managed their pages. But then for me, it was just cold and clean out. But I did decide to get back in, but that's kind of where this was born.
Okay.
And it came out of that. I got back in, and my decision was that I'm going to really this time tailor this to be more positive and only bring things in that I know are good for me. Not saying that I'm always accurate with that. I mean, but now if I see a feed or a page or any account that I've followed or that I'm connected with start to put things out that I just go, look, when I read it, I'm not in alignment with it. I don't believe it or whatever it may be. And if it's making this conflict, I just go, I'm done with that.
Right.
Kill that channel, unsubscribe, whatever it is. And just wait for something else to come through that is positive. And so it's been good for me. But that was where this was born in that sort of idea that I can tailor information. Not that that's some genius idea. But I looked around our market and I just didn't see like one collective place that was just that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of publications. We have a lot of TV stations, radio, things like that. But they're variety channels, I mean, 1 month it could be about, hot tips for makeup, right. And then the next article a page over is about something. It may be a human interest story, but I just felt like maybe what if just one place to drink?
Yeah.
Good people doing good works. Simple.
I love it.
And so we started, so that gets into you. So I started it, and after the first couple of episodes, I put out there that I wanted people to... send me people that they thought were doing good works in the community, maybe unsung heroes. And I couldn't believe how fast my email started filling up. And so people would send me like 4 and 5 people. Some people would send me 12 people. And then your name was in one of those.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
That came through. And I said, I went, Becky Girola, I know her.
I know her.
But I didn't know what you were doing. I hadn't talked to you since those early days at Northwestern Mutual. So looked you up and I was like, oh. Wow, she's got stuff going on.
When I met you, I didn't have 3 children. Now I have 3 kiddos.
That's insane.
Yeah. How many do y'all have now?
We have 3.
You have 3 as well?
Yeah, I've got 1. In fact, my phone is buzzing under my leg. My daughter is having vehicle trouble.
Oh, no.
It's not an emergency, but it's just something that I need. No, it's something I need to deal with after
Look,
we.
I get it.
Last week
I had sick kids. I'm like, you just have to put away other stuff and go take care of them when you.
I know. Well, that's kind of why we opened this place in the first place. Because with kids, it was like I gotta have flexibility, man. I don't know how people do it without flexibility anymore.
I don't either.
I really don't.
Me neither. Neither.
But let's get back to you and what you were. So you have 3 kids.
Yes, so that's why. So I gotten pregnant with our daughter Joy, who's 7, and went back to work part-time at Northwestern Mutual. And it was okay, but just, when the sitter said she crawled today or she said this today, I'm like, no, I want to be there for those first. And
Yeah.
so my husband and I talked, and he's like, oh yeah, we're in a position now where if you want to be home with her, you know, let's go for it. You can do that. We'll make it work. And then of course I got pregnant again, and then got pregnant again. So 3 babies at home. So yeah, I kind of just left the whole, you know, business world and networking and all the things I was doing all the time, and just retired at home with goldfish and dirty diapers.
Wow.
and all that. Totally different, you know, environment. But it was awesome. I'm just so thankful that I had that time. You know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I get it. I mean, when you have children, it totally redirects so many things.
Yes, but deep down in my heart, like, I've always been called to run a center. Like, since I was a little kid, I grew up in a church where we did something called GAs. It was Missions, Girls in Action. On Wednesday night, we would go to different nursing homes, and we would go do community service projects, all in the name of sharing God's love with people and just caring for them and meeting needs in our community. And so ever since I've done that as a little girl, I was like, I just feel like that's what I'm supposed to do with my life. And I had this vision of running a center. And so all my family and friends that knew me growing up, you know, one day Becky's going to run a center, because I told everyone about it, you know. And then as I got older, you know, I kept trying different things, and it just seems like these doors were closing. And every year on my birthday, I would cry, because I'm like, it's just not happening. Like,
your vision.
My vision, I have passion. I'm excited to do this, and it's just not happening, and I don't know why, you know. And just through a lot of prayer and a lot of just soul searching and maturing just as an individual in my faith and just in my life, just came to a point where I realized, like, okay, like, I can't force this. Like, this is going to have to happen the way it's supposed to happen. And I just need to be willing and obedient, be ready when the time comes, you know. And so I just accepted that for, you know, right now, I've got to focus on my kids and be a mom. And I loved my experience at Northwestern Mutual. It's prepared me so much for what I'm doing now. But I knew that wasn't, you know, my final place I was going to be. That was just, you know, a place in the journey that was going to prepare me for what's to come. But anyway, when I had 2 kids. I wasn't pregnant with my third one yet, but I had 2 little ones. I sent them to Mother's Day out one day a week just to give me a little bit of a break. And I decided, I was like, look, I really feel like my heart is still wanting to give and wanting to serve. And so I was like, I got to find somewhere where I can go volunteer and at least, you know, give some of my time and be with other adults too, you know. And one day when I was running errands on a Wednesday, I happened to just be out driving, running errands, and I passed the ABC Pregnancy Resource Center.
Okay.
And I saw a big sign that said free pregnancy test, you know, ABC. And I remember hearing of them, but not really knowing what they did. But remembering that they maybe needed volunteers. And so I was like, I'm just going to pull in. You know, it was just like very spontaneous. This was not planned. I don't even know why I was in that part of town. It's not even where I normally, you know, would drive. And so I just happened to walk in. I think they thought I was there for a pregnancy test, which I wasn't at the time. But I just said, hey, I'm looking for a place where I can volunteer. I have Wednesday mornings available. You know, what do you guys even do here? And she said, well, come on back. Let me let you talk to the director. And so I explained to her, I was like, look, for me, I've always had a heart for serving my community and for helping others. And it's really not because I'm a great person. It's just because I feel very grateful for what's been done for me. I have a strong faith in God through Jesus Christ, and I know what He's done for me, and I just feel compelled, you know, for the love that's been shown me to show that love to other people. Not that I have any special gifts or talents, but I just know I want to help others, and I want others to see that their life has purpose and that there is good out there, you know?
Right.
And I said, but the only time I can volunteer is Wednesday morning. And she said, you've got to be kidding me. She said, our Wednesday morning volunteer just found out that she has cancer and is going to be out on her treatments. And we were just praying that somebody would come that could serve on Wednesdays. I'm
so
like,
the door opens.
Here I was, you know, and so I started that very next week. And every Wednesday would drop my kids off at Mother's Day out and then go to the ABC Pregnancy Center. And when I tell you, just it changed my life completely, because just we live in a bubble. We don't realize how taken care of we are, how just all of our needs are provided for, just basic things, you know, that we don't show thankfulness for on a daily basis, you know, that we should just be so grateful, but we're not until you see what other people in our community are having to face on a daily basis. It just opens your eyes and makes you just so much more aware.
Yeah, well, I mean, because we can really float around. I mean, that's something I kind of started struggling with at a very young age, was that, and I'll be honest, kind of struggled with this in a sense of maybe it took me in the wrong direction many times, because I would get trapped in despair, not over things going on in my life, but I had a bad problem with seeing too much of the other side to where I couldn't really almost count my own blessings.
Yeah.
I mean, I would just go, oh my gosh, this world is full of suffering. And so I would miss the joys because it was just that all the time in my mind. And I don't know why that was, but it started when I was a young kid. And now I'm much better now. But I will say now it's almost like a tool, because I don't show. What's the right way to frame it? I guess is I allow it, but don't let it take me over.
Right.
But it hopefully use that dissatisfaction or maybe even mild despair feeling to act.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I don't want to live. I don't want to live blind.
Right. Well, it's way more comfortable to just, be ignorant and put it out of your mind and just pretend like everything's fine. But that's so selfish, because there's people that need you to come help them, to help them get out of these situations. And so for me, it's more about, seeing that and doing something about it, and that's a passion that God has given me. And I guess that is part of my gift it's a gift and a burden in a sense, because it is heavy on my heart and it does keep me up sometimes at night because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I can't believe this mom is having to go through this. But then again, it's what drives me to show more love to others and to her and to help her, So I started volunteering there, and like I said, it just changed my life every day. What the Pregnancy Center does is we offer free pregnancy tests and resources to women who may be facing a crisis pregnancy. They're not always, in a crisis situation, but a lot of them are.
What do you consider a crisis?
Yeah, so like yesterday, we had a 15-year-old that is pregnant. She's in high school. She doesn't want to tell her parents. She doesn't want to be pregnant. She's freaking out. She's a child herself.
Right.
What does she do? Where does she go? And so she called us, in confidence, and then we're able to talk to her, to walk her through her options and help her just to really put her thoughts together of, okay, how am I even going to tell my parents?
Well, I mean, look, I went to y'all's website just to kind of do some light research before we sat down to talk, and the first thing I see is right at the top of the website, Youre Not Alone.
You're not alone. Yes. And that's how many women feel, because this is deeply personal. I mean, depending on their circumstance, and every woman is so different, but depending on their circumstance, I mean, this is very, very overwhelming. Some moms are single mothers and then find out they're pregnant and they don't know who the father is. I mean, you want to talk about stressful, I can't provide for myself, currently, how am I going to provide for this new child?
Yeah.
And just overwhelmed, especially if, money's an issue or they don't have a doctor that they're seeing, if they don't have the health care that they need. So that's another, component that we provide is we help them get signed up for Medicaid. We help refer them to a doctor so that they can start going and get the prenatal care that they need. Also, we do free ultrasounds. So a lot of women just aren't educated on what's actually happening in their body.
Sure.
And so being able to show them the prenatal development, being able to, let them see a real life ultrasound, a picture of their baby,
right.
And seeing what it's doing and just giving them, that education that they need. And it really just helps them to say, okay, I am a mom. This is a gift. Even though right now it seems like this is a burden, this is a gift.
Well, it kind of jumps me right into abortion. So, I mean, what you just said, that one example, I mean, I know when I was 15, I had some problems and things to deal with, but I can't even imagine the fear and worry and all shame, just whatever gets balled into that. For a young girl,
right,
that at that age, I can't even comprehend it. I mean, we're your babies, like you said, we're still children, and so when you put yourself back in that frame of mind, then you start to go, that's why it's so tempting to have an abortion.
Yeah, well, almost 1 million babies are aborted every single year in our country. 8,706 babies were aborted in Louisiana. That's one every hour. And so it's crazy to think that's happening. But the reason is, and you said the word fear, that's why it's happening. I mean, women come in not because they're baby killers, not because they don't love babies. Not because
we don't want to demonize people.
No, they're not at all. It's not because they're horrible people. It's because they're scared to death. They are so just burdened with fear, and they don't know how they're going to face the next day. And so having a place where they can come just talk it out, talk with someone who's going to listen to them and not judge them. I mean, for us, yes, we're pro-life, but we never put our finger in their face and say, you're wrong. We tell them, if you make this choice, we're still going to be here. You can come back and talk to us after you've had that, and we'll still talk to you and love you.
Yeah, love you. That's right. That's what's so hard. I mean, I think when we don't like something as people, we tend to just throw people into the other category and go, well, you did a thing I don't like. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I'm not saying that like I haven't done it. Yeah, I mean, but it's very easy to do that. And I think the world's so quick and fast paced. It's almost like, well, we need to make these knee-jerk decisions. So we kind of black and white things super quick.
Yeah.
In that situation, I mean, y'all are kind of geared up to be compassionate.
I was going to say, that's our value. I mean, if you come to any of our trainings with our volunteers, our employees, compassion. That's the word we say. Like, you are here to show compassion. That's what it's about. You're not here to prove a point, to win an argument, to try to win anything. You're just here to love. And so that's why our organization, it's fully funded by churches and individuals and people that see that. Yes. So we don't get any government grants. We don't get any type of income other than what people donate to us in the community, which our community is amazing. Every day we open the doors and people come in with diapers and formula and wipes.
So y'all take supplies. Like tangible donations as well. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Because we don't want to just say, good luck, keep your baby, hope it works out for you.
Yeah, you send people away with supplies and gear.
And bring them back. Come back for parenting classes, Bible study classes. Like, we have resources. Come back. We do events throughout the year, to really nurture them, so that they can really just win at parenting and at motherhood. So yeah, it's not about just, sending them all alone. When we say you're not alone, you're really not alone.
It's so interesting because what you're describing would be good for anybody.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, anybody who, not just in a crisis, but it's like, hey, because I mean, I know people who haven't done any of that and they have resources.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, just have a place where you go, okay, I don't know, you're having a baby and wade you into that in a loving way.
Right. Well, for me, and this I was sharing with my mom just yesterday, actually. I was like, for me, when I got pregnant, I was so excited because I have 2 sisters and a mom and friends and a mother-in-law and aunts, and I have people that, it's a community of support around me already that are going to be there, that are going to help me, that are going to give me that advice and that encouragement. A lot of people don't have that. And we take our family and the people, we take our tribe for granted so often.
Yeah.
And we need to appreciate that, hey, they're in my life and they have my back and they're going to be here for me. For example, there was one mom that the resources that she was looking for was for someone to watch her toddlers while she was laboring. Oh my goodness, like, she didn't have family, she didn't have anybody to be able to watch her other 2 kids, and they couldn't be in the delivery room with her, but she had no one. And so she was like, is there a program or some type of assistance that can help me, with my other 3 and 4-year-old, why I'm delivering a baby? And I'm thinking, I had 10 or 12 people there, when I was delivering to help with kids and everything. It was just such a different, situation.
Yeah.
And so we just don't realize until we see that. And that compassion comes in and we're able to say, wow. Like,
I know, you're right, God. Just talking about that alone, I mean, so much judgment is out there for people when we say, oh, well, I mean, what they need to do is this. And
you don't have a clue.
We don't have a clue. I mean, you come from a network where you've got, but let's say both your parents are living and there's no dysfunction in the family, and you've got 2 healthy sets of grandparents, and then, siblings and aunts and uncles. I mean, that's like that whole classic nuclear family thing. And that would be ideal.
Yeah.
But the world's not that way anymore. Right. So many people have just one parent, or so many children I see are living with their grandparents.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, and those people, I know, I mean, I'm 45, so I'm getting older and tireder and, going, okay, well, I mean, I can't imagine being a grandparent and having to raise, my children's children and do all the things I did 20 years or more ago. So, I mean, that's that is somebody's whole network sometimes, is just one living elderly parent helping them deal with that.
Right. So, but showing them that they're not alone, that's huge. So I'm glad you saw that on our website, because that is
it's the first thing you see, and it meant everything. The reason it stuck out to me was because, I talked about this on one of the earlier shows, and I think it kind of gets down to looking at things through a lens of goodness, right? When you get people in here at this table and you have them talk about what they're doing, nobody's doing the same thing. But what I see from my side of the table, having met all these different people, are these attributes that sort of float to the top, right? And that one is the number one thing. And it's been vocalized in different ways by each person, but it was, in the first guest said, "You see me," is something a teenager wants. Another one says, "You don't reject me." And then I get you here and it says, "You're not alone." I mean, that message is universal, and it's something that is just a human ache,
right?
I think.
Yeah.
And it gets caused by so many different things.
I agree.
With pregnancy, it seems like y'all are sort of on the vanguard of either a great pain or a great joy. You're right at the precipice, because that could be, I mean, again, if someone has an abortion, and maybe it's not the same for everybody, because everybody's makeup's different.
Right.
And I don't want to assume too much, because I don't know. But I know what a mistake feels like, and I know what regret feels like. And I know things that I've done in my life that are heavy, where I should have done something else. And I wonder, the not knowing is more painful than anything.
Right.
So I just wonder, I don't know, I guess what I'm saying is that's kind of where y'all are at. I mean, because the way y'all function and the way you interact with somebody could make all the difference.
It does. It's life-changing for some people. It really is, because they come to us, in such a time of their life where it's a big deal of self-discovery too. Like, what kind of person, am I? Like, what choice am I going to make? And bringing up all this from their past and everything. We have some women that have come in that have had 5-6 abortions, and like, I'm in this situation again, and for us, the thing is when they come in, the very first thing that we say is like, we're here to listen. We're not here to drill you with 1,000 questions and, to make you feel any more, uncomfortable than you already feel. Our position here is to listen like a sister or a friend and just let you talk it out, you know, and then from there, we're going to give some guidance, based off of, an outsider perspective to say, okay, this is how we're seeing it, encouraging them and loving them. But it's to let them know that, hey, they can come, they have a safe place where they can talk that out. But it's okay, well, I've had this happen in the past, do I want to make this choice again?
And I'm happy, I know it.
You've probably heard me mention filming videos, building websites, creating logos, or building brands on this podcast. Well, there's a good reason for that. I'm a brand builder, and my brand is Parker Brand Creative Services. My team and I have built countless brands in the Gulf Coast region, and a lot of our work in the travel and tourism industry is experienced across the country and honestly the whole world. We have our specialties: web, logo, package, and whole brand design, as well as video production and photography. But the reality is, we function as a full-service advertising agency to businesses that don't really mesh well with larger advertising agencies, or just don't want to have in-house creative departments. But don't listen to what I say. Just go to our website, parkerbrandup.com, and take a look at what we do. We're a show it, don't say it team. Okay, you should definitely say it too, but you know what I mean. That's parkerbrandup.com. We think sideways, we push forward, and we'll get your brand up.
So take this, you've earned it, a melody and chorus.
It's huge, and it's life-changing for people. For example, I had this one girl come in one time, and it was a bad situation. I think she was using drugs even at the time when I was meeting with her, because it was like, I'm not sure she's even understanding, what I'm saying. And she had me convinced that she needed an abortion, because she said she lived in a home full of drugs. I mean, that's all they did.
So you've got the image, and you're going, she's going to bring a child into this.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
So you're painting this whole scenario.
Yeah, in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, like how could a child be born? And going back to what you're saying, so much suffering and stuff. I have friends who are trying so hard to get pregnant that can't. And here's this young girl that, strung out on drugs, not in a good situation at all, and finding herself pregnant. I'm like, I don't get it. Why is that baby not going to this other family that's like, anyway, so that was a really tough one. That day I went and sat in my car and just sobbed after meeting with her because it just felt so hopeless, and I just felt like nothing I could say was going to get through to her. She wasn't even in her right mind. I mean, how in the world could God allow, this young woman to have a child? But I did our typical thing that we do, and that's all I could do, and we give every single woman that comes in, we give them a Bible, and we give them this little pamphlet that just talks about how nothing can fill their life like the love of God can. And that's what we're based off. We're a faith-based foundation, a faith-based organization. That's our whole foundation of what we do. And I was like, I feel silly even giving her this because I feel like she don't want to hear this, and she's not even, in a position to hear this. But I know that's with conviction. That's what I believe, and I know it to be true. And so I was like, I'm just going to share this with her, because I feel like it's the right thing to do to show her this. And gave it to her, and I'm like, she'll probably throw it in the trash. Who knows? I went in my car and cried and said, God, why? I mean, I was angry. I was like, God, why? I just don't understand why you would, allow her to be pregnant right now. And it's like I felt God telling me, go write her a note. Go write her just a note of encouragement and leave it on the ultrasound table, because I had talked her into coming back for an ultrasound to see her baby for the next day. And I wasn't going to be able to be there, but I wrote a note and I went and left it on the ultrasound table. And I was like, it didn't really say anything profound, just the same things I'd already been saying, that we love you, we're here for you no matter what. You can always, come back and we'll listen and we'll talk to you, and that God loves you. He made you, He created you. So I know He has purpose for you. And if He's choosing you to be the mom of a child, then He must have purpose, for this baby as well. And just, hoping that whatever, the future holds, that it will be well with her, and that we would be here and to love her. And anyway, just left that for her. And so she did come for the ultrasound, and she did get the card. And months passed, and we don't hear back from her. She never came to any of our programs or anything like that. So sometimes we don't know what they end up doing, if they go to an abortion clinic or what happens.
Right, because once they leave, you don't have do you have a follow up protocol?
We do. We send letters and things, but I mean, it's ultimately their choice if they're gonna come back. We're not gonna hound them or anything. Right. So, but months pass, like 6 or 7 months pass, and she comes back in, and I happen to be the counselor again. This is back when I was volunteering. I happened to be the counselor again, and I called her name and brought her back, and I didn't realize it was the same person. Like normally I flip through the file, but we were really busy that day, so I really hadn't had a chance to really look at everything, and I'm just trying to get through clients, and she said, "You don't recognize me, do you?" And I'm like, maybe I kind of do. And I start to look through the file, and I realize it's all in my handwriting from her last appointment. And I look through, and it's all coming back to me. And I said, "Oh my goodness, you look amazing," because this looks like a very healthy young woman. I mean, not what, a drug addict would look like, who was using every day. I mean, she looked very rough when she came in the first time.
It's probably part of why you didn't recognize her.
Yeah. I mean, just physically, she looked totally different. And I'm looking through all those notes. I'm like, oh my goodness, she's back. And she said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm about to move, out of Lake Charles." She was like, "But before I did, I wanted to come back here because I gave all that stuff you gave me. I read it." And she said, "I've changed my life completely around."
Wow.
She said, "I ended up miscarrying the baby, so I didn't even have to go through with the, choice of aborting the baby." She was like, "But I realized that this was a turning point in my life, and I read all that stuff that you gave me, and I have a lot of questions. I want to talk about it." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's talk about it, And so we just started talking through just her life and who she was, and, why was she given life? We just talked a lot through that. And she had this new perspective on her life that, hey, I want
value.
Yes, affirming her life. Yeah. And that's what pro-life is to me. It's not a political position. For me, it's about being pro-life is a lifestyle. It's affirming your life, my life. That if we're here, if we're alive and breathing, then we're here for purpose. There's a plan and a purpose for why we're here. Doing that with her was just amazing.
I agree. And you're saying pro-life, and I mean, I'll be interested to hear what you think about this, because I'm also pro-life, but I don't use it again as a political position or an agenda. I'll just tell you my view of that phrase.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to know what you think.
Yeah.
I have struggled with, there are things that I abhor, like violence, war, poverty. Yeah. There's just things that I think come from being a violent creature. I think we hurt each other.
Yeah.
And so I also kind of abhor the idea of vengeance. And so when I hear pro-life, when I first started hearing that, I resonated with me because I thought, well, pro-life means, I didn't even realize early on when I was younger that was related to abortion, right? So I thought it meant, oh, you're for life.
Yeah.
And so it kind of aligned with some of my own beliefs about like the death penalty and punishment and just things like that. And so when I hear pro-life, I hear pro whole life, like not just don't have an abortion.
Right.
I hear
so much bigger than that. Yeah.
Take care of the children as well. Make sure they're fed and sheltered and clothed, and they have proper care and live in proper environments, proper education. Not to say proper can be different for different people, but just good and healthy for them, so they're not being harmed.
Right.
Like a first do no harm kind of attitude. And then it also means following somebody with that same attitude into their adulthood, even through their tribulations and trials, and even if it means they face addictions and temptations, and they end up on the street, then it's still life.
Right.
I don't want to see those people die either.
Right.
And then even the criminal.
Yeah.
And that gets into a hard place for a lot of people. And I don't know, sometimes it's a hard conversation to have. But even for me, I mean, I find it, I know I have the seeds of vengeance and rage in my own heart. But for me, as a Christian, I wrestle with those things because I feel like the call is to wrestle with them and to not just go eye for an eye on everything, tit for tat, And so I guess that's how I've viewed pro-life. And I just would be curious, is that, do you ever
for sure, like that,
similar feelings like that?
Yes, and that's why I think I'm in the director position now, because I do have that heart for that, and that's just where it led. After volunteering for so many years, the director that had been there for 16 years, she was ready to retire. Her husband had died, and the whole time she'd kind of been putting the bug in my ear. She was like, I know it's supposed to be you. You're supposed to be the person that takes over. And I'm thinking, look, I've already, been wrestling with my whole, what center am I going to run? I'm like, I'm not trying to take the wheel anymore. I just, when it's supposed to be, it'll happen. It'll fall in my lap when it's supposed to happen. And then it just happened. I'm telling you, just out of the sky, hey, I'm retiring. You're supposed to take over, let me know when you're ready, because I'm about to retire. But I think that's why, because she could see that in me, that I have a passion for everybody. God's given me that heart, just that for you, or for your wife, for your family, anybody that I feel like I meet, I see them as a created person that God made, that God loves, regardless of who they are, what they do, what they look like, what they contribute to society. Who cares? If they're created, then there's a reason that they're here, that their life matters. It's no better than my life or anybody else's. Their life matters and has value and has purpose.
And see, there are people who would argue against that. I mean, there are arguments against taking a worldview like that, and living like that, because someone could say, well, what about, somebody's just like a career criminal. They rape, they pillage, they hurt, they steal over and over and over, and they're going to ask you that question. Well, you're a bleeding heart in that regard.
So here's my perspective on that, and not everybody's faith is like this. So for me, I know how much I've been forgiven. I know that I'm really not a good person. We're all born with sin. We're born for example, your kids, you don't have to teach them to be bad. My kid, 9-10 months old, already knows how to hit, how to make bad faces, how to take toys. You already know how to do that. You're born with some ugliness in you already, and so you have to teach your kids to be good. You have to seek the good. You have to find the good. And so for me, I already know that in my heart, I have ugliness in my heart. Why do I tend to be jealous of people? Why do I get too prideful? Why am I arrogant sometimes and think I'm better than other people? And those things I have to repent of and say, I'm sorry for that, because in my heart it's there. But I know how much God loves me, that he sent Jesus to die for me, to take my place, so that all that ugliness in me could be washed away and I could be made a beautiful creation. He did that for me, and he didn't have to. You know, he gave me free will to choose what's good or to choose what's bad. He gave us all free will. And so for me to see what he's done for me, even when I chose to go against everything that's good and right, I chose to go against that. He came and took my place and said, hey, all that bad stuff you've done, I'm going to wash it away. So I have a bigger perspective of how much I've been forgiven, how much grace has been poured over my life. And so since I can see that for myself, I just feel like I can give it freely to others. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. I get
it.
I mean, I guess some people think that some things are just unforgivable. I mean, if we didn't have that, I think that we wouldn't have death penalties.
But the most forgiving people are the people that realize how much they've been forgiven. Because like if I held myself to the same standard that I hold other people to, how would I measure up? I think of that a lot. Like, but we want to, put a value on our, well, you can't see my pride, so it's not as bad as your, addiction or whatever that we can see.
That's right.
And so we want to put values on what's, the bad things that we do, but ultimately we're all bad.
Yeah. Well, I kind of mentioned that last night in the visit I had, that if you could crack my head open and my heart and you could see what's in there, I might not be welcome.
Yeah.
Because I've got things, and I think we're all like that.
We are.
I mean, we're all kind of unclean, somewhere.
Right.
I don't know.
The more we can see that grace and we let that grace, and it's just a gift. That's what grace is. It's just God saying, hey, I'm giving you a free pass because I love you. Well, it's like what you do with your kids. Like sometimes they just mess up, they screw up, but gosh, you love them so much. And sometimes you do have to discipline them. You have to do, what you have to do as a parent. But sometimes you just overlook it and let them be, because you love them and you want what's best for them. And so just showing them, I've told them that before, like, oh, you deserve the worst spanking right now. I'm sure you've been there before. I'm like, I just want to beat you black and blue, child, but it's like, I take that moment sometimes to just have that teachable parenting moment,
Yeah.
I'm giving you a free pass right now, but I want you to have gratitude that I did that. I want you to see what I've done for you, and in your own heart, choose to go and do better.
Yeah.
So for me, I guess it's kind of hard to put in words a lot of times, but for me, it's just in my heart. I'm compelled to do what's good because I have gratitude of what's been done for me.
Yeah. That's something somebody else said on the show that, and this was interesting too, because it brought up a point that I'd like to actually bring up with you.
Yeah.
Which is about goodness.
Yeah.
One of the guests said that, I had a pretty good life.
Yeah.
I didn't have any tragedies. I didn't have something bad happen. Didn't have this moment that changed my life, Upon reflection, pretty much just said, hey, I kind of, and didn't mean it to be crass or anything, but said I kind of had like a charmed life. Mm-hmm. And so the thought was, I want to give back because I received so many blessings. And the next thing the person said was, I think that's what anybody would do. Mm-hmm. And I kind of challenged that because I said, I disagree.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would, because there are a lot of people with a lot of blessings that don't even have a thought like that.
Right.
So what do you think that is? Why do you have that thought that I want to love people, help people, do for people, instead of just kind of rolling along with your own life? What is that?
Well, for me personally, so my story goes way back. The hardest part of my life was as a kid. My parents divorced. Actually starts with my mom. She was the only child, and both of her parents died when she was 15. And so she was left with no one but a 21-year-old aunt who raised her.
Oh, wow.
So, it started with my mom. She got pregnant young with me at 19, had me when she was 20. They got married to my dad, but they were divorced very young. So at an early age, I have a super, super great relationship with my mom, and she's somebody who I attribute so much of my faith and my character to, because she walked through a ton. But parents were divorced really young, never really had a father figure in my life consistently because he lived far away. Mom got remarried and it was really bad. They were both pharmacists. He ended up getting addicted to codeine and in and out of rehab with drugs.
So you
cops
had to
at
deal
our
with
house.
addiction and stuff like that.
All of that. An ugly divorce, 2 younger sisters I had to take care of. So by the time I was 12, I'd been through a lot and seen a lot of like, whoa. But again, I'm so grateful, which it doesn't make sense. Why are you grateful for something so horrible that happened to you as a kid, Because it's changed my perspective. It made me see I didn't have to wait till I was 30 or 40 to realize, that everybody in your life probably is going to disappoint you, because they're people and they're not perfect. even the people, your spouse, like your kids, they're going to disappoint you. They're going to let you down because we mess up. And so it was like, I can't put my hope in worldly things. I can't put my hope in people. I can't put my hope in things and circumstances, because all of it changes and all of it's going to disappoint you. And so at an early age, through my church and through just positive people in my life speaking truth over me, I was able to see the only thing in my life that I know that I can hold on to is the love of God.
It's interesting. And I mean, this might be strange for you to hear,
yeah.
And you may already know this, but what you're describing is very Buddhist.
Really?
It is. I mean, and that's something I bring up sometimes, because I think sometimes we immediately side-eye things that aren't in our Christian
I don't know
faith.
much about it, but
what you described is changes the law, and these things.
Right.
If you're clinging to them, if you're clinging to their solidity, their permanence, your health, your looks, your possessions,
all changes.
Everything you've got is passing away.
Right.
And it's going to change.
Right.
And you can fight against that and make yourself completely and totally miserable, or you can accept that there's something else that is beyond that.
Right.
And so, I mean, and for a Christian, that is God, right? And so you kind of, to me, that thinking always led me into God. It doesn't always lead everybody there.
Right.
But what you're describing is exactly that. It's going, you're clinging to.
Yeah.
Not everybody takes that perspective.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that you, at a young age, quickly didn't fall into despair necessarily.
Because I could have. My life could have
totally.
looked so. I could have had daddy issues. I could have just been bitter my whole life about what happened to me as a child. But again, I'm grateful because I know it was God drawing me in and giving me that heart and giving me that perspective.
Yeah. So where you had a void, it was a goodness came and sort of began to replace that. See, some people just have a hole.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't get filled.
And I feel like that's what drives me now, because I can relate with a lot of people too that maybe have had a similar childhood, and it gives me a platform, even when I share with women at the pregnancy center, that I understand what it's like to not have a father, because so many children, women are growing up without a father figure in their life. So you're turning to men to try to feel, that love in your heart. And you know what? Even the perfect husband is not going to be able to do that, And so it's just realizing, that you as an individual, you were created on purpose for a purpose. And ultimately you're going to always be thirsty if you're not filling your heart with what is true and what is good. And that comes from God.
It's again, being seen as a creation, and in seeing yourself as a creation, that there's a reason for that. I mean, you don't just, maybe we do, but I think most of the time, you can look in yourself and see the seeds of that and try to understand it. When I make something, I'm making it for a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm making it, whether it's a piece of art, which is just to bring a little bit of joy, or to even just bring joy to yourself, or whether I'm making a tool or whatever it may be, I'm making it for a purpose, so it has a value to the creator, which in that moment is me, right?
Right.
It's, to me, that thinking, it's very easy to imprint and go, okay, well, I can take that to another level and see the creator creating things with value for a purpose. There's no just haphazard, willy-nilly.
Right. And that's our hope, like just people that have zero hope. I'm like, how do you even live? Because there is so much suffering. There is all that. Like, where's your hope? You have to have hope in something. And so for me, it's that purpose that I was created, that there is a God, that there's something bigger, going on.
Yeah.
So otherwise you would just wallow in just despair, and this is a horrible place, and we just live and die and that's it. That's no way to live.
And I can understand that. I've been through for a series of years, just back to back to back, it seemed like there was just a couple of tragedies a year. And I say tragedies, some of them were real tragedies and some of them were just heavy things. And it's like getting punched in the head, and you're going, okay, well, for me, I've always had the ability to get up, and I don't know why. Sometimes I have almost raged against that ability, because I think, is this a gift? To be able to get up again and again and again? Why? Because I see some people that just give up, and sometimes that looks peaceful to go, I don't know. I just don't. I'm just kind of want to not worry about this. Just let this thing fall apart or whatever, because it's so much work, but I can't do it. And I guess what I've come to identify that is hope. Like somewhere in my heart, there is a very heavy, immovable anchor, that's just buried there. And that anchor is my hope. I can always ultimately, go there and rest on it.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know, it's made of iron. It's just unmovable. And I feel like you want to give that to other people when they're in that place. And I feel like, I don't know what y'all are doing there. You're doing that. People walk in, you're going, look, have hope.
Yeah.
You can lean on us.
This will get better.
Yeah. It's temporary.
Yes.
I think that in the moment when we're having troubles or pain, it feels, just like my daughter, I told you, she's texting me, the battery's dead in her car, and then in that moment, I know I've been there. It's like, this feels like every minute, this is not going to get fixed, and this is temporary, a big problem. Yeah. And then I think back as it, I go, how many batteries have I replaced in my life? It's nothing,
It's going to be okay.
But it's just perspective,
I
think. Once you have a child.
Yeah, for sure.
And you felt the love of your child, every worry. Maybe they're not gone, but they get overshadowed by the joy and love of that child.
For sure.
And I think you probably want those women who come in to feel that, to get to the other side of that precipice.
Right. Yeah. And you were talking about suffering earlier, and that's probably the hardest thing, to discuss, because like as humans, will our mind ever really understand suffering? Because it's just so hard. Like, why do we have to suffer? Why do we, why is all this? But when you were just talking about hope with that, it makes me think, because I'm the Bible is my tool book. I'm constantly, God, teach me through this. And there's a scripture, Romans 5:3-5, that says we rejoice in our sufferings. And you're thinking, what? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you rejoice in a suffering? But it's because suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance produces your character, and character produces hope. And hope will not disappoint you. That's a promise from God. And I believe that He's faithful and that His promises are true. And so when I'm going through something that I feel like, okay, this is unbearable, this is suffering that I don't want to go through, I have to say, okay, rejoice in this. Try to find a reason to be thankful. And it's like, how can you be thankful for this? Maybe not for the, the specific details of your circumstance, but for the overall circumstance, try and find the good in it, knowing that you are producing perseverance and character, and that your hope's going to grow through this.
Yeah.
And that's the only way, for me to be able to get through those circumstances. And for other people out there that, don't have that or don't have that perspective, I can see why suicide happens. I can see why they go into these just ultimate, depressions and despair, because there is no hope there.
Yeah. They can feel like that too. That's getting into a whole nother area.
Whole nother thing. Yeah.
Because, mental illness, and especially we've dealt with that in our family, and, you can have someone loving, guiding there, providing resources, offering help. Doing all the things that you're supposed to do, and depression can still
happen.
Yeah, and it still can take you down a hole that you feel like, even when there's hands at the top, it just doesn't let you see those people. You almost makes you see them as enemies, is what it looks like.
Yeah, that's tough.
And so it's hard. And I imagine y'all probably deal with some of that when you see women who come in. They're probably that can drive them into depression.
Oh,
correct?
yeah. So many emotions. Yeah. So much.
Decision making is all askew at that point.
And the cool thing I was going to tell you too about something that we started doing this year that's a good thing in our community, and this didn't happen for me or even from the pregnancy center. This is just people in the community. I got a phone call that said, we'd like to help people with their education and getting careers, and helping them. And we know, a lot of young moms, the reason that they probably choose abortion is because they feel they're not financially stable, or they want to finish school and they're not going to be able to do that if they have a baby, or at least they feel that way.
Yeah.
He said, is this something that you're facing? I said, oh, absolutely. On our intake form, one of the questions we ask is, what goals do you have for your life? What are you trying to accomplish? And I would say probably 90% of them say, I want to finish school, or I want a better career. I want to go back to school. And typically we're just like, okay, you can do it. You can still be a mom, you can still go to school, but we don't really have a ton of educational resources for them of how they do that.
Right.
And so now someone in the community came and said, we've done all the legwork. We've found out exactly how they can get enrolled in Sewella, get free childcare while they're there, get free transportation, get a job on campus while they're there, and then have a job waiting for them when they finish these programs. And then little programs from 10 weeks all the way to 2 years to be an RN. And so now when we ask that question and they say they want to finish school, we're able to say, hey, we have an advocate who's going to hold your hand and walk you through this process. So if you're serious about finishing your education, we're going to help you do that.
Wow.
And in 2 years, you may be an RN and be able to be a nurse and provide for your family. And so just giving them that hope too, and letting them see that, hey, there's a light there. There is something, a goal that you can try to achieve. And we're going to help you do that.
That was actually one of my questions was, do you have women who come in and then it's really, they're pregnant, but you have a sense that there are other things that are going on and you connect them with resources?
Yeah. So we are a resource center. That's what we are. So anything that they have a need for, we have like a 5-page document where if they need a car seat, we help them get that. If they need food stamps, we tell them exactly where to go, who they need to talk to, what they need to do. If they need a paternity test, they want to know, we tell them where to go, how much it's going to cost, what they're going to do. Any questions they might have, we are there to help them.
That's good. I was wondering because, you're dealing with an immediate need, yes, but then there's sort of all these orbits around problems usually.
Right.
And it's like, well, which ones can we that are
kind
of gravitate towards
and then
pregnancy?
ongoing, like they need stuff for their baby, formula and baby food and diapers and all that. We give them all of that, you know? So it's not a just good luck. It's a, hey, keep coming back, keep using our services, because you're going to feel more and more empowered every time you come here and realize that you're not alone, that you have people with you, and especially in the parenting classes, because then they start encouraging each other and realizing, okay, she's in my same situation, or I was in that situation a year ago. Let me show you how, I've been able to get through this. So it's just the community really coming together and working together.
Do y'all have any kind of outreach where I know that people can find you, but do you have any kind of outreach where you're putting that information out to places?
Probably not as good as I could be doing. Like I definitely have partnerships with a lot of the other, community organizations. Yeah. And so I go and try to build relationships with them and of course give them flyers and, tell them to refer to their clients, which they do. I
would be curious to know this, and maybe it's, you might have a feeling about it, but have you ever went to schools?
No,
I'm just wonder what that would be received like. Because, we don't want to, I don't know, sometimes I feel like things are taboo, right? Yeah. And we go, well, we don't want to talk about teen pregnancy at school. Yeah. But unfortunately, it is a reality.
It is.
And you said you have 50, probably younger possibly. I don't know.
One thing we are doing, it's not at a school, but it's going to be at the Civic Center, January 22nd. We're doing this thing. It's called the Unaltered Tour. And it's for teens and college students, basically. But it's a group of 12, 20-something-year-olds, young adults in their 20s. And it's a concert-style event on life, sex, and dating. And really, it's brought to you by the Pregnancy Center because for us, we see so much teen pregnancy. We see, women in situations that they don't want to be in. Well, we know the root cause of that. If you're having sex with several different guys and you don't want to be pregnant, well, there's a way to stop that, you know?
Right. So you're giving them information so they understand, because we really don't have an arm of that in our schools anymore.
We don't, because it's taboo. People don't want to talk about it, and they also don't want to be talked about it from their parents or their teachers or from older people. But when it's younger people coming to talk to them about it, I think they're going to be a lot more receptive. And really, it's more about like making that pledge to their own personal purity. Like, okay, what kind of person do I want to be? Do I want to get all my information from Teen Vogue, and what they're telling me to do? Or, what in my own heart do I feel is right for me? And seeing the consequences of that, to see the consequences. If I'm 20 years old and I've already had 10 different partners, and I'm 20, just STDs that are there, my risk for pregnancy, there's a lot of consequences. You can't just go and do that and expect that you're not going to have, any repercussions from that.
Yeah. I don't know do you know Carrie Hankins?
Yes. Yes. Okay. I don't know her well, but I really want to get to know her.
I think y'all would probably hit it off really well. As I'm talking to you and hearing what you're saying, she has a similar sentiment about reaching teens and giving them good information in a way that's not coming down, like from on high, and it's very authoritarian and saying, do this, don't do that. She's trying to educate them so they can navigate.
Yeah. Why is this important? Yeah. And thinking about you as an adult, all these things, these choices that you make are going to go with you. You know, they're going to they might not be seen by the world, but they're going to be buried within. There's a lot of emotional scarring that happens with teens and young adults. Yeah. Because of the issue of sex.
Yeah, sex is, and I've always been bothered by this, but I think is the weaponizing of good things. And I think sex is a good thing, but it's weaponized, and it's used to hurt people so often, and it screws us up when sex is used as a weapon to hurt you. when it's supposed to be something that's supposed to fulfill you and be good for you.
Right.
I mean, we're sexual creatures. I mean, it was made in us, you know? And then when it's used to hurt you, it screws up so much inside of us. It's that specifically bothers me more than anything. I have a hard time seeing severe drug addiction. And I have a hard time seeing people abuse sexually. Not seeing it, but like just contemplating it. And when I hear stories about abuse, it really bothers me because I know people who have been, and you see how it just sort of rewires so many things.
Right.
And so these people coming in who are pregnant, there's no telling. There could be a whole series of abuse. Yeah. And then maybe it led to a pregnancy. And then so you've got a crisscrossing of all these emotional wires.
A lot.
On top of a hard situation. I think it's people say God's work. I mean, it is God's work.
It is. It's all him. And I'm telling you, like, when we have a need, he provides. And he sends the women there. I'm telling you, because we don't do enough advertising or enough outreach to be able to see as many women as we see. We see over 1,000 women a year. So, I mean, a ton of women are coming in. And already 102, that's our statistic for just this year so far, are women that have come in that have been considering abortion, that have then changed their mind after coming. So we know that 102 babies will now be here because of our services, and those are 102 lives that God created, that who knows what he's going to do.
Well, you can take the fear away from somebody so they can see clearly. We talk about that a lot on the show, that our natural state is not fear and anxiety and hopelessness and despair. These are all very dark. I mean, as one of my favorite podcasters calls it, the dark arts, and I agree. It's like there's this, those things want to drag you away from good things and good people and resources and help. That's not who we're supposed to be.
Right.
And what you're doing at ABC is basically you're helping to fight against those dark arts. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can give somebody...
It really is a war. It's fighting against all of that, fighting fear almost every day and fighting, not just for those babies, it's for the women, and that's what a lot of people say, oh, well, you don't care about the mom. Oh, yeah, right. We care most about the mom. We know the babies are going to be okay ultimately,
well, that's
even
a chain
if they
reaction.
are aborted. Yeah.
I mean, you're starting a new chain reaction, planting new seeds. I mean, a history. Look, I mean, I'll tell you just from my own perspective, my father's side of the family kind of comes from a history of abuse. These are things that I didn't know growing up, but I know now. My father passed away a few years ago, and I know in digging and talking with people and just reflecting as an adult now that he struggled with anger. And I just thought he was angry. I didn't know where it came from, but it was anger mixed with love. It was hard to understand as a child. I wouldn't say he abused me, but or my sisters or anything, but he was angry. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of my memories are of him being very angry. And so as in looking back through his family, you see that anger was worse in the way he was raised. He was, that anger was impressed upon him, and then that anger was impressed upon his mother from somebody else. And it just goes back, and you go, I was aware that, okay, that is a chain that stretches back. I don't even know how far. I can either just go, man, that's sad, and allow those things to just get passed into me and pass it on to my kids and keep kicking this wheel around of suffering from generation to generation. Or I can say, I'm going to wrestle with this. I'm going to fight it. So yeah, do I have anger in me? Absolutely. But being aware of it and then knowing that it's a thread that runs back and go, I almost identify and go, I see you over there trying to get in me, and you want my kids too, and you can't have them.
Right.
And that's, in my opinion, that's kind of what y'all are doing by providing the mother with love and fearlessness and hope. You're stopping that right there. If you can plant all that stuff in the mother, then you're automatically caring for the child right out the gate.
Just giving them that bigger perspective, because they're so tunnel vision on
sure
the
suffering will do that to you. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you just get like hyper focused. I mean, I'm wired that way. I think anybody would tell you if they said, "Oh, I function better in a crisis." Don't know why, but like everything for me when there's a crisis, everything gets real clear.
Yeah.
And like I can know what to do. I can function in that really well. Why is that? I don't know. But the reason I bring that up is because it just narrows my focus down to the moment of what's going on. It brings me right into the present. And the unfortunate part of that is you sometimes can't see anything else. And so I can imagine a young mother or...
So a super cool story real quick about that is next week is our Life Matters banquet. Every fall we have a big banquet where all of our supporters come together and we just really rally around life. We tell encouraging stories.
Is this a fundraiser for
And it's
ABC?
our fundraiser every year. But this year, Tim Tebow, football player, his mom is coming to be our speaker. And the reason she's coming is because she has an amazing story. When she was pregnant with Tim, doctors told her, you have to abort this baby. He will not survive. You will not survive. Like multiple times. Oh, you need to choose abortion. You're not going to survive this pregnancy. The baby's not going to survive. And just deep down, she's like, I just can't do it, And she's like, I know they're telling me to do this, but I can't live with that choice. I can't do it. I'm going to choose to just trust God and just carry this child. And so just praying that this child would be healthy and that he would be big and strong is what she specifically prayed. And so now she's like, he's a Heisman Trophy football player. He's big and strong. I mean, look, but then looking even bigger at the impact that he's had. I mean, if you go research all the things that he's done in his 31 years of his life with the Tim Tebow Foundation, I mean, he travels all over the world and provides surgeries to hurting children who have deformities. I mean, he does all kinds of stuff to bring good to people all over the world. He also has the Night to Shine where he helps special needs teenagers and kids and young adults and just brings purpose to their lives as well and does so much. And so to look at when you get to step back and see the big picture and to say, wow, what if she would have given into those fears and said, I could die or my baby could die. All that would have been lost, that he's done in 31 years. Look at the impact that he's made. Think of all those kids that maybe would have died had they not had the surgery that Tim Tebow brought to them. And so that's a huge, story. You don't always, they're always going to be that big, but if you really were able to put on those glasses of really seeing the whole big picture, think of all the impact.
Yeah. I think it just matters. I think it takes changing your mind and starting to look at life instead of going, oh, I'm just falling through it, and sort of go, okay, everything matters.
Everything.
Not just, and the gentleman that was on here last night, Tony Bork, he said that, he said, he was talking about God, and he said, God, the universe is soaked with God. So everything just soaked and permeated with, dripping with God. And we have this idea that there are some things that matter and some things that don't. But if you can take that perspective that everything matters.
Everything.
From, what I'm saying to you right now, I can go, oh, I'm going to talk to Becky, and then I got another guest coming on later, and then I move on. But no, the conversation we're having matters, because here's the thing. What you're saying today, I don't know who's going to hear this.
Right.
And you don't know who's going to hear it. Right. It's going to be out there in the ether of the internet. And it could touch the life of a girl in another state.
Right.
Right? Well, they may not have ABC, but it makes them go, I didn't even really think about this. I didn't know. And they find something like what ABC is. The impact of just touching lives.
Effect.
Yeah, the ripple effect. It goes out there. So I think doing good things.
Yes.
The smallest thing. Another guest, you may know Owen Clanton.
Mm-mm.
He's the principal at FK White.
Oh, okay.
And he made a point. He said, doing good things, you feel like problems are insurmountable. And pregnancy probably feels like this is insurmountable. But he said, take 50 cents out of your pocket and stick it on a Coke machine. And you probably go, what does that matter? Well, you don't know. Just a little bit of joy to somebody, or a feeling of goodness and happiness. He said, that's enough to just start the beginnings of a chain reaction of doing good and changing somebody's life. He said, we can't look at these things like, oh, I should do nothing.
Yeah. And what do you want to be known for? You know, like when your life is over, I think I was in high school, like that was something that sat with me, was like, you know, writing your eulogy, you know, at your funeral, like, what do you want to be known for? You know, I want to be known for giving my life away, for giving so much love away. If I've been given all this, I want to give it away. Why would I just hoard it? So many of us have so much and we never give it away. You know, I want it to be worth it. I want to say that like I lived a life that, you know, was full of love, and that I lived good, you know?
Yeah, I think you're touching on something that I truly believe, that the gift is meant to be given, and that's where the value is. Yeah. That came for me I guess when I first really felt God in my life was over 20 years ago, and I didn't really know what was happening, but something changed, and it was really from someone else's sacrifice. Yeah. That I received that gift. And all this time, I remember for many years, I felt I've been given. And it wasn't until I started wanting to give it away that an aha happened for me. And I realized, I thought the gift was what I received, but the gift is giving it away. Yeah. It's giving that feeling away to other people, giving that hope, that word, that value to somebody else, so they know, just like your website says, I'm seeing you. And when I see you with that kind of heart, God sees you through my eyes and loves you through my heart. And that's just a beautiful thing.
It's so beautiful. It really is. And that's what makes life awesome. And I know there's scripture that I love is Jesus tells us, I came that you may have life and you may have it to the full. And he didn't mean I came so that you can have a big house and a fancy car and all this stuff. I came so that you could know me, that you could see what truth was, and that you could live this full life just like I did and get to experience this fullness of joy. Yeah. You know, and that's why people are like, oh, you're so happy. You're so happy. Well, happiness comes and goes. When my kids are acting up, I'm not happy. I'm a mad mama, you know, but I have a joy that no one can take away, you know, that it's deep in my heart. And so that's that happiness that they see. That's really the love of God in my heart that he's given to me, that makes me want to give to other people.
Well, that's just what that's exactly how I feel about that anchor I described. I can go cling to it and hold on to it. And no matter what happens, the worst thing, even when in total darkness, I can go touch that. Yeah. And know that there is a foundation and that hope is not lost. Yes. And that you can start back over again and again and again. And you may have to.
Yeah. And it's not always easy. I won't say that lightly. It's not like that's just easy. I can just snap my fingers. No, it's tough. We're all humans. We're going to have to wrestle through that. But deep down, having that anchor, like you said, your soul is secure, and you can know that this life is good when you look for it, you know, and you cling to it. Cling to what is good. I say that. I have that written in my...
Cling to what is good.
I have that written in my... it's a scripture, actually, but I don't know where it's found, but I have it in a frame in my guest bathroom. And a friend had told me that one time in a circumstance that I was just getting annoyed. It was really an annoying circumstance. Like, just cling to what is good. Find the good and cling to that, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that. Finding it, I think it's an action. You know, it's not just hey, it's going to happen, but actually finding goodness in action. Yeah. And I think, again, bringing it back to what y'all are doing and what you're doing there, you're helping people do that. Like, you have a child, helping them find the goodness in that, and not just seeing it as a burden. There's a picture, and I think I've brought it up on the same show many times, but there was a picture out of the Vietnam War of a little boy carrying his brother on his back, and someone says to the little boy and says, "Oh, is he heavy?" And he says, he's not heavy, he's my brother. Aww. And I love that picture because it shows you, that giving it away. And you're not seeing other people as burdens or children as burdens, but as a joy. Yeah. You know? And I know it's hard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's plenty of days.
It's hard. We don't have any of those problems, and it's hard. It's hard just managing things,
Right. Right.
Well, for anybody who is listening, keep in mind that I don't know who that is. Yeah. What would you suggest? What's our first step if someone finds out they're pregnant and they're feeling like a crisis?
Yeah. Well, they definitely can find us online, abcprc.com, and you can schedule an appointment confidentially through our website. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Just go in. I need to schedule an appointment, and we can get you in as soon as possible. You can also call us 337-433-2797. All of our appointments are very confidential, so you don't have to worry about like who's going to see me, who's going to know.
Right.
It's completely within, just closed doors and with the counselor.
Yeah.
And so it's a very safe place, and that's what we want our girls to know, that this is a safe place where you're not going to be judged. You're going to get an opportunity to just talk and talk through your circumstance with someone who's compassionate and is going to listen to you and help you figure out what those next steps are.
Do they need to bring anything if somebody comes?
Picture ID. That's
picture
it.
ID?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's it. And even if they don't have that, we're good. We'll take a picture of them.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you took the time to come in and talk and to get to find out what the heart that beats behind things.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we see organizations or entities that are doing things out in the community, I can tell you truly, I've never had to deal with a crisis pregnancy.
Yeah.
And so ABC, I've seen it. I drive by it.
Yeah.
But because I never had the need,
Yeah.
I never stop and go, hey,
Right.
what's really going on there? And beyond that, when you meet the people behind things and you find out that there's a real human heart that's in that place that really does care, I think it makes a big difference. And I think with people who are in despair or feeling hopeless and hear something like that, they I believe with what you've shared, they'll sense that humanity and love and openness. I think that's probably something I would hope for me, just on my end of the table. I think that probably is what I would hope people get out of this conversation, is that it's safe and they just don't need to fear, because that fear will keep you from. I'm sure there are people who probably don't call or come by just out of fear. And just to know that that's okay.
Yep.
You don't have to be afraid, and that there is a non-judgment atmosphere.
Right. For sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was fun.
Yeah. Well, I hope we can do it again.
Yeah.
If you ever have any more good news, don't hesitate.
Okay. We'll do.
Because, I want to keep it flowing.
Yeah. Love it.
And I love you just